Okay, my name's Liz. I feel funny not looking at the audience.
Hi, Liz. Conversation. Talk to us.
Okay, oh, I'll talk to you. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Now I don't feel so strange. Anyway, like this. Okay, got it. Okay. Anyway, let's see. I guess tonight, my business is that I bring a lot of different types of products to market. I work with a lot of different kinds of companies and a lot of different kinds of verticals to make a lot of different kinds of decisions. And so I think I would choose tonight the product that is one of the most recent ones, which was a suitcase luggage that we released originally through Kickstarter crowdfunding. It's called a G-Row, and usually I'm in the spirit of shameless promotion. I'm always passing out Smarty Pants, and tonight I didn't actually bring a suitcase, so that's, you know, a drag, because I normally do. And so it's a new company. It's still very much a startup, and there have been, I think, a couple of decisions, and if I had to pick one, I think one of them would be that in trying to decide what to do in the space between the time that our crowdfunding campaign ended and the time that the product would actually be shipped to the customers that purchased it. And they are very passionate and they are investors in your company, even if they ultimately just bought a product. But that's how they see themselves, and that's how we treated them, and that's how we see them. And we made a decision to go from Kickstarter to Indiegogo, which is obviously, honestly, very controversial sometimes, but is actually quite straightforward. But that decision, which we talked about a lot, and we were aggressively sought to do that by Indiegogo, would generated over $1.6 million extra. Did I say that right? And that really is a significant amount. It also meant that we had, you know, quite a few thousand more customers, and ultimately we shipped over 14,000 bags to 70 countries in about a 2-month period, but it gave us a much broader reach. So I think that decision was very critical in the launch of the company and the distribution pattern and process.
How long was the time between the campaign ending and the actual delivery?
The campaign started in October of 2015 and ended in December of 2015 on Kickstarter. We literally turned it off and turned it on from Kickstarter to Indiegogo. And we wound that up just as we were starting to ship the bags. We were actually in the range of being on time or not. We were in the good side of it, but we were still quite a few months late. And then we had just about every possible disaster that could ever happen. Yes. And quite a learning experience in that way. And we were still in the top 25 at that time of all crowdfunding campaigns, actually. And definitely for luggage, way ahead of everybody still to this day. That we started shipping in January of this year, actually. Did I say that right? Yep. And we didn't really finish, well, we started actually in November, but we didn't really finish shipping by the time we had, I'd say, end of April. And the reason that happened was we had crazy things like, if a human is looking at something, generally they can see things that are red flagged. And in the shipping process that went from the company that does the sort of organizing and collecting of the addresses, backer's kit type thing, to the actual shipping, there was a mistake on the spreadsheet, and people who purchased the bag were listed 5 times. So as if they'd bought 5 bags, and there were 50 of them. Oh my God. So 250 bags went to Europe, actually all in Europe, but like in the dead of winter, and so you can imagine these people living in Belgium, and by the way, a bag is a big box, it's a carry-on suitcase. I didn't really pitch the bag, but the bag has revolutionary wheels and goes over all kinds of terrain and stuff. So, and it came with a battery pack and a tracker and all kinds of technology in it, et cetera, et cetera. So it was not light as a result of all of those things as well. So there were people who were like literally on a 5-story up apartment who received 5 bags, and many of whom wanted to take them with them on their vacation, but they came late, and then there were 5 that sat there, sometimes for a month, sometimes never seen again.
Because you take month-long vacations when you live in Europe.
Exactly, for the holidays. And, so getting them back was even a whole different conversation. And so dealing with that alone, by the time we delivered them their actual bags, it was much later. Or got the bags to the people that didn't get their bags as a result of those people. So anyway, it took a lot longer than that, since most people had their bags by January. So,
My name is Carly. I work for a company called Exploding Kittens. We make card games. And yes, we're also a Kickstarter campaign. And
one of the best presentations of a
thank
Kickstarter
you.
campaign.
Thank you. I was
Absolutely,
responsible
without
for
question.
Love.
Loved.
But yeah, they are very, very vocal fans, and constantly, daily, asking, "Where is my game? Where is my stuff? You said you were shipping it. It's not here." And we got about 220,000 backers, which, I mean, it's a $20 game, so losing them happened a lot. Like, don't send games to Russia, because apparently you cannot send games to Russia. We had to hire a truck in Germany to drive there, which was absolutely crazy. So they got their games, I think, a year later. And then Brazil is also very challenging. They got their games, but Brazil, South Africa, like, we learned all of these things about. We didn't put any do not ship here, basically. So you could be anywhere in the world and get our game. Or you were trying to get our game. You paid us money, and there's still about 3,000 people that have not filled out their backer kit survey.
Exactly. Still to this day.
Yeah, still to this day. We then did a second Kickstarter for a game called Bears vs. Babies, because we love animals and children, I guess. And we tried to learn from our mistakes. Again, there was all sorts of issues. This game has fur on it, so we had to figure out how to get fur places without making it, well, it's fake fur, it's not real fur. But figuring out how to get a fur onto a box, how do you get, that much fur? We literally saw it being made in China, all these like giant looms coming, and it just looked like this really crazy, like woolly mammoth beast that was birthing out of this factory. But yeah, it's really challenging. Kickstarter is really hard. I think one of the things we decided to do when launching Exploding Kittens, we have this like meowing box that we thought was really cool. That was $1 million to put this meowing sound chip in there, but we really wanted to have that experience of a cat going meow when you open the box, which terrifies people usually. And a lot of really fun videos come out of that. So yeah, I think that was an interesting decision we made. It was a very costly decision, but it made the retail shelf presence that much more worth it. And also was a very fun surprise for those people.
Are you in retail?
We are in retail, yes.
And do people know about the meowing box? Like, how do you communicate a feature like that when you're sitting on a shelf?
The meowing box, it's a really good point.
I think that's a huge challenge.
There are two different boxes, and they're both basically identical. So, which may or may not be a good thing. They're both red. They both are the same size. They both have the exact same game inside them. One opens and meows and is $10 more than the other. So the meowing box, we actually don't sell it on Amazon. We only sell it on our website, and we sell it at conventions, essentially. So where you're seeing people, and you're, like Daisy and I here, we go to these conventions, and we just open the box in front of people, and they're like, what is that thing? Like, what are you doing? So it's a good seller in a physical store. On Amazon, we don't do it. We wanted it to be, well, also, we also made a mistake of saying it was a Kickstarter exclusive, and then we made 200,000 extras that we needed to do something with them, and they have a battery inside them, which is gonna last for 5 years. So there's a ticking time bomb on that. So yes, it is in select retail stores that we partnered with, but trying to identify that it meows, we didn't think about it. Like, it's on Amazon, you'd have to make a noise or something on your website that would indicate that it is special.
But I think for your campaign, and I don't know where there's a version of everybody talking about it, but the level of innovation and creativity, and it must be continuing through everything you make in terms of even at retail.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to outdo yourself over and over.
Especially when you start with cats. Like, I feel like that's a really strong starting point.
So it is, and anything with kittens on the internet is a good idea. So if there are kitten vitamins out there, or maybe a kitten in the luggage, I would.
The luggage could meow?
Yes,
Yeah,
meowing luggage.
That's a great idea.
Yes.
Sound effect.
I would buy that.
Oh, I'm Rachel. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Seedlings. We make creative toys for kids that are tech-enabled. In general, we want to encourage open-ended play and creative play. And the tech-enabled piece is somewhat new since last year. We launched our first product where kids can experience building their own maze and then stepping inside it in VR. And we are developing a lot of really interesting AR products this year, some that are out and some that are coming. I don't know that I have one thing. Seedling has been a business that started in New Zealand, making, basically the founder, Phoebe, invested $200 and made these creative kits for kids and grew the business organically to $4 million just off of, you know, any money I make I put back into the business and how do I find retailers. And now we're in 14 different languages and 19 different countries. We're in everywhere from Target to Best Buy to Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, Barnes & Noble. So we do a really big retail business. Wholesale is actually still 80% of our business, although I really agree with everything that was said in the keynote, we can call it a keynote, right? Around building your direct-to-consumer relationship, because that's hugely valuable and is 20% of our business. One thing I would add, though, is really interesting with a product like Maze, where really hard to kind of communicate. You've got this whole building experience, it's creative, it's also VR, we've got it's all this very experiential product. And we were really struggling with a retailer, bookstore, gifting, and really convincing them, the buyer just was not biting. And they just tend to be a little bit of that slow adopter anyway. But we realized, one of the really cool things that's happening with this whole maker movement is that, retailers realize this is a big deal and they want to get in on it. So they're doing a lot of local store events. So one of the things we did is we kind of kept not getting the traction we wanted. I think they agreed to a 10-store test or something. It was really ridiculously low. So we ended up calling them and saying, we want to participate in some of your local maker fairs that you're having at the store. And the buyer, the contact we had, said no. So then we just called the store. We said, we really want to participate in your local maker fair. And the store was like, that's great. We're so excited. What time can you be here? And do we need to provide the product? Will you guys bring We're like, great. And what we did is we went in and we were wearing, shirts, and we're very well branded. For $200, you can get those big step and repeats and kind of have, a display up. And we hired a photographer to come in and take pictures of kids really enjoying the process and the game. And then we sent those pictures to the buyer. We kind of went back to her and said, well, this was so successful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all your efforts. And lo and behold, they ended up buying in a lot more. And they just tend to be a more conservative buyer anyway. But
did the buyer think that they were responsible for you getting in the store?
Absolutely. I mean, especially after it was successful. So, and then the sales, it is one of those products where when you demo it, you buy it. Right, yeah. So it was definitely really great to show that kind of traction. So I guess the lesson there is, don't give up. And yes. I definitely think that even with large big box retailers, there is a local manager who will talk to you about what it would mean to be on shelf in that local big box retailer.
Right. They're connected.
We do sell on Amazon.
Not allowed to speak unless you're in one of the public shares.
Do you
I don't
sell
know.
on Amazon?
Anne can be maybe. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the question's for me, so I can't.
You gotta tap us out.
You can always jump back. Do you want to tap?
I'm gonna tap the kittens.
I do sell on Amazon, and I would say that I also wanted to. I really felt strongly about the responding to reviews, and one of the things we've realized that's actually incredibly effective is pure honesty. So here's what is not working about the product. And you're thinking to yourself, this is just, I shouldn't say these things about it. We'll hide it. But really, if you just say the markers might run out before the child finishes the product, people are 5 stars, thanks for your honesty. It's crazy how much, if you're just honest about, buy an additional marker pack because the markers might run out. That's all they want to know. But yeah, we sell on Amazon. It's kind of a more recent thing. And we've had some crazy experiences with that, but happy to share more.
Can I do a mini talk?
You can jump in.
All right, I'm tapping. Okay, that just made me think of one thing that would be helpful for people to know. So here's another thing we never thought about. When you're premium, this used to drive us crazy. So that we have a competitor who's makes stuff that's not great. And the reviews are this. It's the box showed up, 5 stars. And with our products, we would labor, but we realized later, we didn't think about this, that our audience are people who read labels, and they're much more critical.
So what happens is they'll say, this product is amazing, you know, it changed our lives, it's fantastic, but the edge was dinged on the bottle, 2 stars. And we're like, what? Those guys got 5 stars because the thing showed up, and we get, so that's another thing to be aware of too, is what kind of product and who your customer is,
Yes.
because that will change how given they are to being enthusiastic star givers. If that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, we've had a lot of interesting experiences. We actually got chosen to do Amazon exclusives for the first product of luggage, and it's been a really complicated and difficult experience. And it actually has a lot more restrictions than being a vendor. And so the reviews are been really scary. No, come tell. But anyway, I just
Yeah.
you know it's.
But I think, so there's, like, so my background is actually digital product. Now I manufacture things. It's really challenging. I miss just, like, app updates. Like, I broke something and I can fix it in 48 hours. So anyway,
There's a pom-pom ship wrong, it's all over.
yeah, mad respect for this group and what I do now. But I would say that video on Amazon is key also to conversion. Yeah, I don't know. What are your? Maybe
Hi.
throw it to you.
Hi everybody, I'm Lauren Groper and I'm founder CEO of Repurpose, and we make plant-based compostable picnicware and tableware, and we sell actually in 5,000 stores, Target locally, Whole Foods, Safeway, etc., and also on beloved Amazon. I wish I would have listened to Courtney before we started, because one of my make it or break it was we had not looked at any of, we had sort of gone to stores, but we hadn't looked at the market research or the market data. And so we didn't know, you know, which were the top sellers in our category, which were probably the right products to kind of start with first, which had the better margins, which were the sort of least competitive. And so when we started, we went in with the slowest moving, most competitive, worst margin.
Wow, all three. That's really.
And then we decided, gee, this is tough. Maybe we should purchase some market data and actually look at this category. And then that was the big aha moment, and we developed the rest of our line, which move off the shelf like crazy, and you know, people love, and they're not so competitive. And so if we had just done that beforehand, we would have been in a different position. So it's all worked out in the end, but I think it would have been a lot better to kind of do that. So if you can get your hands, what we use is called IRI Nielsen. I don't know, and there's a spins. If you can get people in the retail industry that have access to those, that's what we did. We did this sort of stealth. We get it off a broker. We don't, it's usually hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we get it very cheaply. So if there's ways you can kind of navigate it to get that, it's so insightful. Now it's what we use for every investor presentation and I mean, we just rely on it quarterly, monthly. And we make data-driven decisions, and when we go to a retailer, we now present the data instead of just being like, hey guys, you should buy this. Don't you love our product? And they expect it. So when you're going to the Targets or the bigger retailers, they expect that you've done your homework, you have the data, you can show it to them. They don't want to do any homework. They want to know that you've got it. So
That's
that
what's so
was huge.
powerful about sort of the D2C or even social media, because it is proof that customers want your product.
Yeah, and that
Need the
data
proof.
is really
Yeah.
expensive. So the one thing I'll say about IRI and spins and all that, we did not buy any data for the first 3 years of our business because we didn't have a data budget. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, wait. You have to. So I would encourage people who don't yet have the budget, you can learn a lot by just going into the stores and also picking one in each channel. So go to a Kroger, but also go to a drugstore, and also go, depending on what kind of product you're making, go into different approaches to retail for your vertical. And I promise, if you just go in every 90 days and start looking at what's going on shelf, you'll learn a lot about who the movers are. Whoever is at this eye line, I mean, Amazon, it's obvious, obviously, because the rank is posted. But whoever is at your eye line, those are the brands that are doing well. Whoever's down here, they're not doing well. And so it is, honestly, because it just gets crazy expensive. I mean, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on data, and most companies can't afford that in the early days. So do not underestimate how much you can learn if you make it a habit to go in every 90 days and look at whatever retailer is carrying the kind of products that you're making.
I have one more ad for it's not a make it or break it, but it's kind of, I think, what not to do and what to do. You're gonna need to raise money, so make sure you raise enough money.
And what you think is enough, just double that.
Double it. And it's
Building a
gonna
house.
take you twice the amount of time that you think it is. So just give yourself more time and raise more, and you'll be okay.
So now, I just wanted to add to this, the idea of retail, in that one of the things that's been so interesting is this idea, and I remember this from early digital media too, which is don't ever give up on the idea that you will discover, or a new audience will discover your product. So when we were thinking about where should we distribute this, we were thinking, okay, what kind of stores would it take? How much inventory do we have? So we went into a store in Santa Monica here called Ron Robinson. But the store that's been the most successful and exciting is MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art store in New York. And I don't think people go into MoMA looking for luggage. And they see a product that's not inexpensive, and they fell madly in love with the design. And so this idea that we thought people would love the design, but because we actually were, it was a tenaciously complicated thing to get it in the store, and then they buy a version of it that really doesn't sell anywhere else as well, which is the one that has red wheels. And so that's been a real eye-opener for us to think about a different way in which we might want to sell the product. So thinking about someplace that might not seem like a great place for your product, and then having it actually be there is a really interesting opportunity. And I see that a lot now when you see stores like Poketo, which I think is down here,
Yeah.
and stores where you wouldn't expect to see products that are discovery, or the Beta store, or whatever, wherever you can
Yeah.
think about outside the box, your product might fit.
My
So-
add-on to that is that not every retailer takes the same cut, so do not publish your wholesale pricing. We made that mistake. It was a very legacy thing for Seedling. It was just, we've been making these craft kits. Most of our buyers were at a 50% margin. Just put it in every catalog, distributed those catalogs all over the world. Shh, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, that's a definite, different retailers, depending on the channel, will take, different allowances. So, leave that up for, publish your retail price, but just keep it up for negotiation.
My add-on to that is that retail's incredibly broken, right? I mean, I think all the disruption you're seeing is that retail is broken. Don't assume that the buyer knows what they're doing. Don't assume someone in fashion knows what they're doing. Don't assume a report you read or data you read makes any
Don't
sense at all.
assume the same buyer will be there 6 months from now.
It's
Don't
not gonna
assume the
happen.
store will be there.
Don't assume the store will be there. Don't sell them too much. Don't sell them on consignment. So my name is Ann Lawrence. I'm a partner at DLA Piper, which is a global law firm, and I'm the global co-chair of our retail practice. So we, while we have specialists in actual law type stuff, and I am a lawyer, what I do is I work with retail brands. So my job is to and it's a lot of distress. I do a lot of bankruptcy right now.
I rest my case.
Yeah, I learned a lot about bankruptcy laws. But so my job is really as a strategist, and with the idea being how does law interact with retail, and a lot of what we do is analyze and talk about what are these, what are the data that we're seeing and what's wrong with the market and why are things falling apart. It's not just Amazon. Amazon's not the reason why malls are breaking down, right? But that's what everyone wants to jump to. Oh, people walked into Nordstrom and they didn't buy anything, and so look, they'll take a data point about restaurants selling, outselling mall retail clothing stores and say it's Amazon's fault, or say that millennials have now decided to eat instead of shop, and you're thinking, or it could be that there's 5 people in China making 75% of everything we see at your, not Nordstrom's, but other mall retailers, and so that person went to the mall to blow off some steam or to spend some money. They came with some money, they walked through 5 stores, saw the same thing and labels that were just stuck in. They didn't want to buy anything because it sucked. But they still have money in their pocket, so they decided to go have dinner. Whereas if they'd spent $100 or $200 or $300 in that store, they wouldn't have had dinner. They would have gone home because they wouldn't have wanted to spend more money. So, we could blame Amazon, or we could blame millennials, or we could just realize that there's probably a lot of factors as to why things aren't happening the way they are. So I think what's really interesting about the market right now is that it's very hard to build a brand, and it's very hard to understand who your consumer is. And if you're not testing it out, you don't know that someone wants red wheels because they just walked out of MoMA and they're feeling awesome and fabulous and a little bit funky, right? And maybe I walked in to, or walked past Toomey and thought I should have that bag. And if I was just walking into a mall and saw Toomey or I saw what you've got, I don't want to buy it because it feels too funky. But when I'm feeling all invigorated when I walk out of MoMA and I'm thinking,
And
yeah.
the price point. Like I just feel like you're at the Broad or you're at MoMA and you're in the gift shop and you're looking around and you're like, I could totally spend $100 to remember this amazing experience.
Rock those red wheels.
Whereas at Target, like you're just in a totally different mindset.
That is actually one of the issues with that Amazon exclusive spoke to us about many times, which was they have a problem. People don't come to Amazon for discovery. They come there to buy exactly what they think they're going to buy and looking for it, or they're comparing price or whatever. But they're not looking to discover any new products, and that was actually the promise of Amazon exclusive, is that they find ways for people to discover products so they can be more of a discovery marketplace.
Has that launched or is that working?
Yeah, it exists. It's been, I think it's about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years on Amazon exclusive.
I meant your
Amazon.
product.
Oh,
on
no,
Amazon
have we
exclusive.
launched? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
See, I'm not sure I would have bought Smarty Pants vitamins. I mean, I actually knew about the launch when we spoke on a panel years ago, but I remember seeing them in Whole Foods. And here's what's interesting. I had already, I tried them because I was nearby when you had launched. So I tried them. I knew my kids loved them. But if I'm telling you, if I told people, oh yeah, I have these great vitamins, you should go on Amazon and get them, maybe. But when I saw them in Whole Foods, and you could buy the one single pack, and it was like a low risk sort of situation, and I said, oh my gosh, my kids love these vitamins, bam, it was done. And they bought them, and they would come back to me and they would say, but I could have said 100 times it's on Amazon, and I don't think a single person would have been like, gee, Ann, thanks.
Yeah, retail is marketing. And I would say so we make children's products. We never say the word toy, but I'm gonna say toy because it's like the fastest way to get you to the place of, yes, you buy this product for a child and they play with it. And my CMO would like kill me. Essentially we sell, we really don't sell in toy stores. So we sell to clothing stores, gift shops, bookstores, technology, retailers. So it's just interesting, like you might be thinking about the channel strategy for your product in a really specific way, like, this is where they need to buy it, but what if there's like just a nice, endemic partner to be thinking about? And I think that's a different way to think about retail, and it's actually how a lot of the retailers are thinking now because they're trying to find revenue. So you could find your products in like Anthropologie. I mean, that sounds crazy, but maybe not in this new retail environment.
Oh, go ahead, you go.
I was just going to say, so this is what you just said was another thing I meant to say and I didn't, which is that the order in which you launch it tells people something about your brand. So again, that awareness in your category of what matters to people in making the decision. So we did know that vitamins are a highly researched product, which was two things. When we went into offline, so we were on Amazon for several years before we ever launched in Whole Foods, but we knew we wanted to be in Whole Foods first, even though it was the most expensive channel, we'd make the least amount of money, and it was very work intensive. Like you gotta have a lot of people involved, but we knew that's exact challenge as a brand new brand. There's no trust yet, people don't know, but it's also why we had to be on Amazon, because in our category, we knew 85% of people who are in a store buying it look it up on Amazon. So they're in Target, but they look it up on Amazon and say, how many stars does this have, and what are the reviews? So I can figure out if this is something I want or not. So it's good to also research your category on Amazon and just see how review intensive, how many reviews do the top ranked products have, and also that what retailer you launch in first tells people a lot about your brand, for sure.
Right. I just had a question for Courtney. How important is it for you to keep innovating and keep launching new SKUs? Are your retail partners requesting that of you? Are you volunteering that? Are you sort of happy sticking with the core line? How do you guys go about new product launches and innovation?
So we're really different in our category in that we've built our business to pretty significant size, double-digit millions with 5 products. So that's pretty unique, which is we were very focused on velocity instead of that. But that's also part of our brand mission, was we don't need to have 200 products.
Define velocity.
Oh, velocity, sorry, how quickly it moves on shelf. And by the way, care about that way before you care about how many doors you're in. we're in 25,000 doors, but let me tell you something, we were only in 10,000 a year ago. And that is because, and we were able to grow because we were obsessive about how fast that product was turning on shelf, and also the rate of change. So how quickly was the velocity growing?
How did you grow your velocity?
It was a lot of work. I mean, seriously, we didn't spend any money on brand advertising at all. It was reviews on Amazon, really. That drives, in our category, that drives purchases everywhere else. And we did demos. We're a taste-driven product. I mean, Khalifa,
Tastes great, I
taste.
do use them.
We're very lucky because we have something that people love to taste. So it tastes really good, and I think you said, like, if someone tries our product, more times than not they buy it. And if they buy it once, they tend to buy it for at least 6 times. Yeah, step in. Come in, jump in. She's dying for you to jump in.
And anybody else, we got 5
I'm not gonna
minutes
sit on
left.
anybody's
If you wanna-
lap,
If you
though.
have something to share or ask, tap in.
Yeah, sure.
Mic drop.
Welcome, Sean.
I'm gonna stay. I can.
And I didn't answer. While I sit down, no, I'll tell
We're
you
a
the
really
innovation
gracious
thing.
group. I thought it was gonna
we
be
have
really
that.
cutthroat.
I had to kick somebody out to join in. We were talking earlier about maintaining a brand image, about building a brand, and I think it probably applies to you guys as well, for sure. Amazon, to me, seems antithetical to that. So how do you manage that? And in fact, I mean, why go to Amazon at all if you're profitable? Why go to Amazon at all?
Introduce yourself.
Oh,
I have
hi.
a response on that, but yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm Sean Scott, my partner Ryan over here. We, with my wife, third partner, we started a company called Community, right over here in the Arts District, part of us.
Show him your shoes, Sean.
We make shoes here in LA, and hopefully we sell them to be a part of the community and to drive
That is the.
Thank you.
to
I want
drive
some.
community initiatives is really our goal, and the shoes and being a part of the community is a vehicle for that.
I think it's interesting that, it was funny, that one of the things I was thinking about when you're making that choice between just Amazon or Amazon and other retailers, there are a lot of very successful, very product-driven companies that sell only on Amazon. So they could have 4 SKUs making $80 million just selling on Amazon, and they don't have brand equity. So they're very product-led. So if you are very focused on the design of your product itself, you might not need brand. You may decide, if this is a lifestyle business and you're just gonna use that cash and you wanna live a good life and you don't care about building some big brand equity, Amazon actually can be an extremely productive place to do it, because you'll have a ton of reviews. And you see that the top players that are pure Amazon, not really brand driven, are these really product heavy, design heavy things. In our category, you need to be on Amazon, because that's where people go to find out if your product is liked or not by other people.
My response is that if you don't put it on Amazon, somebody else will, as you get bigger. So the issue we ran into is we sold a lot of product out to different retailers. I've mentioned all these bigger retailers, but we run a very healthy specialty business. So the one-off shop in Brooklyn and the little shop down at McKinney, et cetera. And what we found is that somebody placed a specialty order. We were able to like trace this back based on the quantities. All of a sudden we see this SKU pop up on Amazon that's like underpricing. So then Amazon drops, we're a preferred seller. We're actually a Launchpad partner, which is this like startup program that Amazon has. That's a whole other thing. But essentially, like, all of a sudden we see this price drop. So now we're in retail meetings pitching the price, and they're Googling us in the meeting on looking on Amazon at like what we're selling at, and they're like, you said it was $60, like it's here for $39.99. So we then
I've heard of that. Oh,
literally
sorry.
had to, we bought back all the product. We literally went on and just bought it because we couldn't get them to stop, and then we started to reinforce what you call UMAP policy, which stands for something very important.
Minimum advertised
Yes,
price.
and I just knew I wasn't going to be able to remember that like in this moment. But essentially, it tells your retailers what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do.
If you sell direct to retailers, you can avoid some of that. So that's distributors. You run into that risk. We had that too. If you sell through a distributor to a retailer, so if you're selling at Whole Foods, you're likely going to come through UNFI, you're going to run the risk of that. If you sell only direct to retailer, that's why Birkenstock was able to do what it just did. When Amazon announced that it was going to buy product from Target, Birkenstock, who had pulled themselves off of Amazon for the exact issue you're talking about, called Target and said, if you ever sell my product to Amazon, I will no longer sell to you, Target. And that's how they enforced it. So the brands that are able to do it successfully are we send a letter, we monitor MAP very, very closely, and we are hyper vigilant. The minute we see anyone violating MAP, we send them a legal letter. And if you do that, it starts to have integrity and people will respect it, even the resellers. But it is a risk. It's nice not to have to deal with it. If you don't have to, don't do it. I mean,
Is it realistic? I'm sure you have something important, better, smarter than me to say, but is it realistic, but I'm gonna be very selfish, this is a question we're struggling with, for us to expect that we might be able to monitor this if we know who our retailers are and we know where it's going?
Yeah,
Is that
totally.
realistic?
absolutely, we do. You can.
We sell to Whole Foods, so we have to go through the distributor UNFI, so anybody can buy from UNFI, and then anybody can put it on Amazon, like Courtney says, and this is the challenge that we have as well. There's something in Amazon called a buy box, which is, there are people that are selling your product, resellers that aren't you, and if they drop the price by a penny, then Amazon's algorithm lets them be the one when people are searching for your product to click. And so it's a constant monitoring of who's got the buy box today. And
It is true,
no,
the buy
and-
box, that's right.
And
that's
do I
right.
have to, like, literally, we drop it by a penny so that we get the buy box back, so that when people are searching for us, they find us. The other thing that resellers do is, or even your competitors, they buy your keyword. So they'll buy your brand name keyword, and then when people are searching repurpose, it goes to our competitor. So you have to be, it's a lot of headache, I find.
And it's international, the other thing too, I will tell you, I was in a meeting and someone said, so when are you going into China? And I said, well, there are all the blue laws and we're very conscious, we want to go in very slowly, we're thinking, but we're going to wait a year. And the guy opened up his laptop and pulled up Taobao, which is the big, Tmall, which is the big mall. There are literally 75 people selling Smarty Pants, and they have the most recent, we done like a relabel design, they had like the 2-week-old label design up on the website, and we checked into it on our top zip code on Amazon is JFK. So people are buying it on Amazon, shipping to JFK, putting it on big containers, flying it to China, selling it on Tmall, for 300%. That stuff happens. You gotta just know that ultimately you can't control everything. You can't, so you just have to be vigilant.
Well, I guess that's a high-class problem, isn't it?
It is,
People
that's
want
correct.
your product.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So, any final words based on kind of what you heard here and words of wisdom?
Keep going, and you have my enormous empathy, because I know how hard it is. I do.